Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos, and I'm a life coach, relationship coach, and breakup coach. You can change the language of this podcast in the YouTube video settings. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing why your ex fights their feelings for you. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Subscribe to my weekly support emails. The link is in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing why your ex fights their feelings for you. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you might be surprised to know about your ex's feelings. In most instances, a dumper will at some stage have second thoughts about the breakup. In today's podcast, I'm discussing 3 reasons why your ex fights their feelings for you. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is conscious versus subconscious. Now let me know in the comments if you think that your ex is fighting their feelings for you. Let me know in the comments and let's see what the community thinks. And point number 1 is conscious versus subconscious. And this is a really important reason as for why your ex-dumper will likely at some stage be fighting their feelings for you. And what this means in this respect is that from a conscious point of view, your ex-dumper knows why they believe they ended the relationship. Even if they can't quite put their finger on it, they know that they are not feeling the feelings that they should do. So either it is something very, very obvious. Maybe, for instance, you cheated on your partner. They obviously were devastated by this news and finding this out, and they lose romantic emotional attraction towards you very suddenly on the basis that they find out you've cheated on them. And at that stage, when the level of attraction hits the necessary low point, they action the breakup, they end the relationship. They know why they've done it. Okay, that is an example. Now, it doesn't, of course, have to be regarding cheating. Maybe, for instance, you were becoming complacent in the relationship. Maybe you were not making an effort or dating your partner. Again, they lose romantic emotional attraction. This time, it would have been likely over a longer period. Once more, though, when it hits the necessary low point, they action the breakup. Again, they know why. Now, sometimes a dumper might not be able to exactly put their finger on the exact reason why they've lost attraction, but they still know those feelings have changed. And of course, again, it hits the low point, they action the breakup. So this is why we say, in a conscious sense, your ex-dumper knows why they've ended the relationship. They either literally know, or at the very least, they know because they realize and recognize and feel their feelings have changed. Now that is a conscious thought. It is something that they understand and that they know. However, their subconscious mind is likely to be pulling them closer towards you once more. Now this could be for varying different reasons, but one of the biggest is something known as the fading effect bias. Now I've spoke about this in other podcasts. We're not going to dwell on it today, but to explain it very, very quickly, you might as well refer to it as wearing rose-tinted glasses. The concept that you look back on the past more favourably than perhaps it really was. Now, there is reasons as for why we call it the fading effect bias and how it actually plays on your mindset. Again, we're not going into that today, but if you are not aware of it, just think of it as wearing rose-tinted glasses. So your ex-dumper, as time moves on, will likely look back on your connection more favourably than perhaps it actually really was, or certainly more favourably than they judged it in that instance. Now that is subconscious. So what we see here is your ex-dumper having a conscious versus subconscious fight. Okay, that is how we could perhaps explain it. And it's going off in their mindset. It could be going off very early on, post-breakup, but also much further and beyond, especially when we are talking about the fading effect bias kicking in. This is going to be much more effective in your favour 6 months and beyond. Now, when we're talking about very early days post-breakup, what might be working in your favour there is the feeling that your ex-dumper doesn't actually want to hurt you. Most exes, most dumpers, do not want to hurt their dumpee. Most dumpers feel awful about knowing and fully understanding that they've broken your heart. They don't want to do that. They often feel terrible. They feel devastated. They feel worried. They feel concerned. They feel pity. They feel guilt. Okay? All of these things can be playing on their mind. Now, whether this is subconscious, drifting into conscious, in that respect, again, it can go here, there, and everywhere in their mindset. But what we can say for certain is that your ex will have battles, will have fights between their conscious mind, which is trying to make logical sense of why they've made this decision, but subconscious thoughts of why they miss you and why maybe they should be trying to give you a second chance, why maybe they feel that their best route forward is actually with you rather than with someone else. So you can see through this explanation that the conscious versus subconscious battle that your ex will be going through is prolonged. It happens in the early days, happens in the weeks, months, even years and beyond, which is why I often say we never know when the story ends. And I'm not trying to give you dumpees false hope. I'm not trying to suggest that everybody gets their ex back, because sadly they don't. There is no 100% guaranteed way to get an ex back. Nothing works 100% of the time and nothing fails 100% of the time. But what I can say is that I have heard through when I speak to people via my audio coaching service, and I've spoke to people for many years now, I have seen how things play out. I've seen how things develop, and what I can say is that there is never a definitive moment where we can say 100% certainty that is impossible. Now, of course, chances do reduce. I would suggest a year post-breakup and your chances are starting to fall. However, what I would also say is that it's never impossible, and that is why I say we never know when the story ends, because we truly don't. Now, don't get me wrong, you shouldn't be waiting around for your ex. You shouldn't be thinking, well, this will definitely happen for me, because sadly, it might not. But we also need to recognize that there is always a chance, because when conscious fights subconscious, we never quite know who is going to win. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like and hype this video. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is friends and family. So today we're speaking about why your ex fights their feelings for you. And point number 2 is really, really important, and I would suggest a lot of you, if not all of you, could relate to some degree. And that is because friends and family have a huge influence on your ex, but it might not quite play out the way you would expect. So it's first important to say that initially, friends and family can have a really big influence on your ex-dumper. It might have been what tipped the balance into them making the decision to end the relationship in the first place. Whether or not they were involved to that degree, I would suggest that initially they certainly have a lot of power in trying to persuade your ex-dumper into not reconnecting with you. So again, we're talking about fighting their feelings because they may have ended the relationship and then almost instantly regretted it, but friends and family have been persuading them, hey, you've made this decision, you should stick to it. We didn't really like that person you were with, and hence we think you should stick to this decision. Now, there are times when they are absolutely right. You will know deep down in your heart, if you have treated your ex-dumper terribly, if you have been abusive, for instance, then you certainly can't be blaming their friends and family trying to take care of and look after their relative, their friend, because they know you're bad for them. Now, you will know deep down in your heart if that is the truth. But in a lot of instances, unfortunately, that isn't the truth, and yet the friends and family are still having this big influence. So you might have your ex actually wanting to reconnect with you, but being persuaded not to. Maybe they had a bad few days or weeks with you due to a certain incident, and they've been persuaded to dump you, and yet they didn't really think they was going to go through with it, and then they were persuaded, and now they've been persuaded to maintain the breakup. So you might hear this and think, well, there's no hope then. But there is. Because from what I have seen, eventually friends and family cannot stop someone reaching out to their ex. I've seen it time and time again, where initially friends and family have that influence, but as time ticks by, eventually the dumper will reach out. If the only thing stopping them is friends and family, what we tend to see is that fight of their feelings. Eventually their feelings win through. Whether this is a good decision that they are making or not, that's not for me to say. But you often see a dumper who is being held back by friends and family, eventually breaking through and reaching out to their dumpee, and often reconnecting. So now you might be thinking, well, that's brilliant. That means I can get my ex back. And yes, you can, but unfortunately that's not the end of the story. Remember what I said earlier, we never know when the story ends. Well, sadly, that can also not go in your favour. It's not always about going in your favour. And in this regard, it might not go in your favour, because from what I've also seen is that if you are not connecting well with their friends and family, sadly, a relationship is not likely to last the test of time. And I put this due to the fact that we all need a support network. We all need a support network of friends and family. And if that is different and separated from their partner, eventually blood is thicker than water. And what that means is, normally what you will see is that somebody will eventually side with their family ahead of their partner if there are major differences. So just to go through that really quickly again, friends and family have a huge influence initially. Then over time, what you will find is that the dumper will probably break through of those walls and barriers being put up, and they will eventually reach out and maybe reconnect with their dumpee. But if there isn't a dumpee and friends and family almost kind of getting together and sorting this out, then sadly, the eventual longer term is not likely to go in your favour. So you might get them back, but if their support network is separate to you, you as a dumpee will likely eventually, sadly, probably lose out. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. This is the best and diamond level of support that I can provide. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is they don't trust you. Now, if you feel that this podcast could help others, please share it in breakup communities, groups, and servers. Let's help as many people as possible. And point number 3 is they don't trust you. So today we're speaking about why your ex fights their feelings for you. And point number 3 is a rather sad reality in a lot of instances. And that is that ultimately your ex-dumper doesn't trust you. It doesn't mean that they don't love you. It doesn't mean that they don't find you attractive, interesting, intelligent, funny. It doesn't mean any of that. But what it does mean is that if they can't trust you, they're going to be fighting their feelings in regards of getting back together with you. And this can play out over a very short period of time, medium length, and longer term. You might see your ex coming back to you, leaving you again, multiple breakups, or perhaps they might never contact you again, and this battle is in their mindset forevermore. It doesn't stop them craving you. It doesn't stop them wanting to try with you again. It doesn't stop them fantasizing about how things could be different, but then they start to realize, actually, I just don't trust my dumpy. And if I can't trust them, how can I be in a relationship with them? And I must agree, when it comes down to it, we either trust our partner or we don't. I'm not a believer that people should be in relationships without trust. If you are in a relationship but you both have to check each other's phone every single night, that's not a worthwhile relationship. You either trust them and you don't check their phone, or you don't trust them and you are not in the relationship. I don't personally see how it can work without trust. So if your ex-dumper doesn't trust you, I agree with them in regards of trying to fight those feelings, because it is just not going to work. Now, maybe they've got it wrong. Maybe they are accusing you of something that you didn't do, or something to that effect. And of course, that could be a very tricky situation for you to navigate, and hopefully you can rebuild that trust in the future. But if it comes down to it, and they just don't believe in you, it doesn't matter how attractive, intelligent, or funny they see you as. Sadly, that relationship won't work.